Live from the mist-enshrouded mountaintop fortress that is X and Y Communications headquarters, you're listening to the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. And now, here's your host, Scott McKay.
How's it going, gentlemen? This is your main man, Scott McKay, and you're tuned into another episode of the Mountaintop Podcast, where better men get better women. And today we're going to have a whole lot of fun. My guest is an expert in being a submissive to a dominant master, not just in the bedroom, but in her whole life. Now, why should you listen to this? Well, because we as men have been kind of fed a party line by media that women want to be kind of the ones in charge, or, the future is female, or believe all women, or we should just kind of submit to women. And I think hearing different viewpoints is a very good thing, because it proves to us as men, as you will find out from listening to this show, that every woman's an individual and they all have their different viewpoints on things. And that's perhaps how we should take relationships and dating and relating to women in general. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you haven't joined the Mountaintop Summit on Facebook, you should definitely do that. We would love to see you there. It's a thriving group of guys. The mountaintoppodcast.com website is there for you as well. We've changed some things, made it a little sleeker and slicker. And even though that sounds slippery, you'll find that the concept of the website itself is very tightened up, and you will find good things there, including free things. Without anything further, I'd like to introduce you to my first-time guest from Vancouver, British Columbia, Marion Delacroix. Marion, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Scott.
Yeah, I appreciate your willingness to come on a show that's all men and talk about this. You are very open about being a happy submissive. Tell us a little bit about exactly what that means in your life and why you're so passionate about it, Marion.
It has been like my whole entire adulthood to be a submissive woman. And without that, I would have not succeeded in life the way I did. I would not be that feminine, that beautiful, that, I guess, empowered woman, which is kind of controversial in a way. But I feel like I am more empowered than I've ever been by being a submissive woman. In that way, yeah.
So that was unexpected. I didn't have that on my bingo card, that you're actually more empowered by being more submissive. Explain. I think that's something a lot of guys are going to be very curious about.
Well, so when I started dating my master, who was not my master back then, right? We needed to build trust and other things. We had some affinities, things that we both wanted to achieve. And then we got together and started achieving these things. So he led and I followed in that way. And by doing so, I just had the even more freedom to express myself creatively, femininity, and just be more me. And that led to me being more empowered in the end. And I like this kind of metaphor of the cage versus sanctuary. And I talk about that in my book. But the thing is, if you choose your cage, then it becomes more of a sanctuary. But if you don't choose, if you don't consciously submit to a man, or if you don't, if you're not aware that you're with the wrong person or these kind of things, then you kind of put yourself in a cage in that way. And that is not empowering for no one, nor is it for men, nor is it for women.
I think we'll all find it curious how you refer to your partner as your master.
Yes.
I mean, that I didn't see that coming either. I mean, you can be husband and wife, you can be partners and not necessarily refer to each other with such terminology, even though you're in that relationship, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Necessarily.
It's not for everybody, for sure. But the way I tested words with master at the beginning, and I tested dom, I tested maître, which is dom, like master, but in French. And they just didn't stick in the same way. They didn't have this aura or this etymology that I felt was exactly what our relationship was, which is more mastery in the way that he's leading, he's teaching me business, beauty, all of these things, like how to be more a woman, actually. That's what he taught me over the years. And master just had all of that. I'm aware that it has also links to slavery and bad things, but even like a magister or a magistrate, or when you do your master's degree, that comes from like the Latin word mastery and not from being a master slave type of relationship. So that just kind of checked all the boxes, I think you say in English for that word. I am aware of how it sounds, but I do call him master in French too, like even outdoor in public. That is my sign of like respect, devotion, as someone might call their wife or husband or wife. Same thing.
Interesting. First of all, to clarify, you are a native French speaker.
Yes.
Okay. Hence the cute accent.
Thank you.
Even though you're in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be completely honest with you, and this maybe is a projection on everybody else because of my own proclivities and fantasies, but the first thing I thought of was Barbara Eden in My Dream of Jeannie.
Yes, of course.
And I Dream of Jeannie, I should say. Yeah, she called him master, and she wore that amazing costume around all the time. And I have said out loud on a blog post years ago, but I will stand by the opinion, she is the hottest television character of all time.
I agree with that. And I think every man should have their I Dream of Jeannie in real life. And when I say like happy submissive, often I go in that box, or people put me in that box where it's like very BDSM-ish, right? And it's very master slave. But I really see myself as a modern I Dream of Jeannie type of girl. I have all these things now. I am empowered. I have my own businesses, things like that. But I still choose to submit to my master because he brought me there. Like he found me, he freed me, and now I have devotion for him in that way. And actually, he did buy me a t-shirt, I Dream of Jeannie. And that I wear it a few times, a vintage I Dream of Jeannie.
Well, there may have been an I Dream of Jeannie costume role play thing. And I'm not going to say anything more than that. I plead the fifth. Okay. But yes, he's dreaming of Marion is what he is, and I dream of Emily. It's interesting because my wife and I don't have the relationship you have with your master, where it is so blatantly that lifestyle upfront and straightforward all the time. But it is not dissimilar from what you're talking about. Because I did indeed, in my situation, welcome Emily into my world, and she gladly joined in. And most of the things we've done on a grand scale, in terms of building business, the hobbies and pastimes we get into, international travel, even what we have for dinner, are usually signed, sealed, and delivered by yours truly. But I'm always thinking about what's in her best interest. And my wife and our kids, we do have children, which believe me, would change everything. In some way, it would change everything. You would become the mistress of those children very quickly. I promise, especially if your partner, your master, was out working. But they do things that I'm not necessarily so into, but it makes them happy. So be it. I'm not going to be a selfish dictator around here as much as a benevolent despot,
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that, like you said, since the man in your life didn't slap you into a cage, lock you up, he gave you sanctuary, and that's how you feel about it. There's a certain benevolence that comes with this mastery you speak of that doesn't feel at all abusive to you and only feels loving. Am I onto something?
Yeah, totally. And I think like that is a quality men have, and that if women can just feel like trust enough and feel confident enough in their early 20s to kind of find that type of man, because I believe all men are like that at different levels for sure. Like every woman is submissive at different levels. Well, you can really abandon yourself in that way, and then the man can also really, really like be a better man, like you were saying, and decide and lead. Because you need a captain to the boat. You cannot all be captains. It doesn't work out. And men, all the men I've seen, and especially in Master, have this talent for this, for kind of like just having the vision and having the proactivity. And if something happens, then it's on them, and they don't make you feel bad for it or anything like that. They choose, and we're going that way. And that, I think, is the thing men have. All men have it. They just need to find a woman that is able to give them that, just that submission, that little spark at the beginning, so that they can test it out and flourish in that way.
The way I put it is in terms of masculinity and femininity working together.
Okay.
I believe femininity is the most wonderful gift to mankind because you all as women bring the joy, the fun, the play, the hospitality, the comfort. That's what we all live for. That's the pleasure in life. But we as men are the providers, protectors, enablers for women to be able to do that freely without having to worry about what we're left to worry about.
Exactly. It's complementary, right? And you need to have both for it to work. And as much as you were saying earlier that your relationship with your wife is similar in many ways to my relationship with Master, it makes sense because a healthy relationship is a healthy relationship. But what I believe is that there is a level of submission and dominance in every healthy relationship, or else it wouldn't be healthy, or it just would end up in divorce or not work in that way.
Well, just like there are women out there who don't want to accept what you and I are talking about right now, either to the extreme you're talking about it or even at the level I'm speaking of it. Yeah. There are also guys out there who can't handle it. They weren't raised correctly. They're not feeling into their masculinity. Or on the darker side of it, maybe they're just not very good people. They're psychopaths and they're out to hurt women. And of course, this whole house of cards falls apart if the man is not coming from a position of benevolent leadership. If he's just abusive and he's hurting you, then you wouldn't stick around for that, would you?
Of course not. And when I met Master, like I vetted him, right? I'm a woman, but I'm not dumb. So I just I was lost. I didn't have purpose and I was looking for a leader. That's for sure. But I tried other men. It did not work out. It was transactional. I did not like the situation I was in. And so when I met him online and we started exchanging, he was telling me all these things, that he had this website, that he was out there. And so I started Googling and I started doing my research. And at one point I was like, well, actually what he's saying is true. So I think I can trust that man. And I think he can be benevolent and not just what we go to the extreme of when we go to like BDSM, or we go to, these men that might be misogynistic and that want to abuse women just because that's how they are. But there's so little men like that on earth. And there's also so little women like that on earth. But we always go to the worst case scenario when, quite frankly, I've met a lot more good men than I've met bad ones in my whole entire life.
Well, that's a very refreshing viewpoint on things because, a lot of what we hear about on the news and what we hear about in terms of, just general social media is always revolving around the negativity. You got the men going their own way who think all women are just going to take all your wealth and screw you in divorce court. And women, feminists, are talking about how men are just terrible and the patriarchy and this, that, and the other. And it's just coming from this vortex of negativity when in reality, when we go out and socialize and we're honest with each other, we're more likely in our honesty to find someone who matches up with what our values are and what we're looking for. It just seems, it seems logical. Yet I think so many people are so engulfed in the online world and hit with so much negativity that we sort of get brainwashed against being positive about anything, right?
I think, the internet kind of accentuates these extremes, right? But when you go out in the world, you're just with another person. You're with another human being. So you have to get to that level. You can't take all that is on the internet and believe that that's what happens in real life. Like, most of the internet is anonymous. And from being on the internet for the past 10 years as a Piper Blush, as this kind of this erotic model, and having fans all over YouTube, but also like other websites. I mean, I've had like really bad comments. I've had like stalkers. I mean, I've had things that most celebrities at one point have. But that's all accentuated by the internet. In real life, like I said, nothing bad has happened to me yet. And I don't think it will, because it's about having this safety net. It's about my relationship with Master. It's about the people you choose to meet. And it's about how open and honest you are with yourself and how that kind of reflects, right, in your close environment, in the decisions that you will make. Yeah.
Yeah, one would hope we wouldn't have stalkers and haters simply because we're choosing to live the life we want to live and,
Hmm.
not forcing it on anybody else. You mentioned this persona of yours, Piper Blush.
Yeah.
11 years building that persona. And you mentioned to me before we hit record, I was not aware of this prior to you dropping it on me, that you were the number 1 ranked Pornhub
Hmm.
name.
Yeah.
How does
Yeah.
that work? How did that look?
Well, so the thing is, when I met Master, I went into erotic modeling. And so we did that together for about 2 years. And then at one point, I wanted to be more famous. I wanted to be more beautiful. My idols or my muses were like Monica Bellucci and Catherine Deneuve and all these women that I grew up like watching movies of. And I wanted to be that woman. So when I met him, he was an artist, he was a photographer, he had all these websites, and he was shooting what we called like beautiful porn movement. So it's very beautiful. And I decided I wanted to do that. So we started doing that. But then at one point, it kind of plateaued. I was like, well, I want to be more famous than this. So he said, okay, if you want to be famous, more famous, you're going to need to really listen to me. Drop your ego. You're going to say, yes, master, all the time. And we will do daily YouTube videos. So we did daily YouTube videos. And that is how got a viral video called Jump Rope. Sports bra versus no bra jump rope test. That was me jumping rope in slow motion pretty much and trying out different outfits. Ranked 9 million
I can
views.
imagine how that would have gotten some views.
That got some views. That got some views. And well, everybody started sharing this video. We were on 9gag, which was a Quebecois type of site. And then we had all of the content that we did in the past that was pornographic and erotic. And so people just started Googling and they went wherever the content was. And some of it was on Pornhub. So yeah, I ranked number 1. Brazers called me and was like, you want to shoot? And I was like, no, I do not want to shoot. Because back then there was a whole big thing with Pornhub actually stealing content from independent content creators like we were. Because we were just us two filming together. I was never in that industry per se, like as one of these bigger models that go all over and shoot all over with different companies. So we were really, really pissed at the whole situation. And I refused that deal, let's call it like that, because all of our content was being stolen and available for free on these platforms. But it has changed now. Things have evolved. There was OnlyFans that brought in a bit more of that female independence content creation. You need to verify. So a bit more control over your own content in that way. But yeah, that happened to me.
Well, you mentioned that it happened to you.
Mhm.
Are your views on porn and erotic film different now than they were then?
Of course they are. I think things have
Really?
evolved a lot. Yeah. I think now you see more women going into this like willingly, freely of their own volition, and it's really a way for them to make ends meet that is off the streets and off of maybe, like you said, some of those bad mans, unfortunately, that live there, like the pimps and all these things. So I do believe that helps with that OnlyFans has given like another opportunity for women to express their femininity and to dive into their sexuality in a more healthy way and still get support from men. And even like this industry is proving it again. Like women go on there and they make money because men go to work and then pay for the woman. Like I love men in the way that men have made it possible for me to be who I am today. Master first, but then all of my fans, all of the people that pay for my content, those are all men. I've always been, I guess, in a man-led world, not just because of patriarchy, but because I believe that's the way of the world. Men should just
lead.
lead. And women are happy doing that. There's no need to be against it or to force against it. And the women that I see that are doing that, well, they're not happy. They're just trying to like go against that, and that makes them miserable. It makes them anxious. They're trying to do everything at once. They're trying to be mothers, have businesses, and this is too much. You can't do everything.
Feminists usually aren't happy, are they?
No, none that I've met.
That's something else, isn't it? Several things there. First of all, I think there's a lot of backlash against porn by feminists saying this is abusive towards women. Women are the victims here. And I completely understand, I'm not naive, how that could be the case at a certain level. But when a woman is, famously, I won't mention her name, but there's a woman who made $260 million over the course of 18 months. That's $250 million in 18 months.
Yeah.
On OnlyFans, and didn't take off her clothes or have sex. Okay. So there's anything that's sexual objectification is implied. There's no actual pornography going on. And I'm hard pressed to see her as a victim when it was almost entirely men just giving her their hard earned money, and she's become a $250 million off of this. That seems somehow more like empowerment than victimhood.
I do believe that's what it is. And that is like diving into your femininity. That is being the beautiful woman that arouses men. That's being the muse, right? That's being the muse for men out there to want to work and to want to lead and to want to be better men in that way. But we need women who embrace that femininity and that the sexuality that comes with femininity. I mean, sex is creation, right? To the rawest point, that's just what it is. You make a baby when you have sex, or you think you're going to make a baby. Your body doesn't know if you had a vasectomy or if you're using contraception, but it wants that. And so I think that like this creative act of sex is amazing, and women do need to do that. I think you were saying that a little bit at the beginning. This is the nurturing. This is the woman is everything. But if women don't dive into that and don't express their sensuality and their femininity in that way, then that leads men with no creative spark, like no musehood, no woman that they want to work hard for and be better for in that way, or lead
nobody
them
to provide, protect for, and to lead.
So it creates an imbalance. And I think that's where we are right now, in this imbalance.
I think you're onto something. I think you're absolutely correct. You also talked about women being empowered and women being independent in the context of, say, OnlyFans, with the particular conversation we were just having. These guys will come at me with torches and pitchforks if I don't call out what seems to be a contradiction between you talking about women being empowered and independent as opposed to being, someone who's under a master, who's a man. How do you reconcile those two viewpoints?
Okay, so I believe that behind all of the like very successful and happy women, there is a man. And most of the women that I've seen that have successful OnlyFans or careers like in the adult industry and things like that, even on YouTube, even if we go mainstream, there's a guy behind them, but you don't see that guy. Like with Piper Blush, with myself, Master was always behind the camera. He was editing, cutting. He was like telling me what to wear, how to behave, all of these things. He did that on top of who I already was, of course, not by changing me, but accentuating these things. But very rarely does a woman alone, like trying to go that route of independence and empowerment alone, will succeed to the same lengths and levels. Now, I don't know from your personal experience, you've interviewed a lot of women on this show, but it's just, it is contradictory in the fact that yes, some women are able to get to a certain point, but I don't think that they're happy in that way without the man behind them.
I would add to that.
Okay.
That I believe men are more successful when they have the right woman in their life as well. Every United States president except one was married.
Okay.
I mean, we don't know how happily, but I don't even know the statistic on if there's ever been a divorce while in office, But ostensibly, at least, all presidents in recent memory have had good, solid relationships with their respective wives. I have had plenty of women on this show who are quite successful and don't have a man in their life. I've had lots of guys on this show who aren't married and do quite well for themselves. But this idea of partnership between a man and a woman should always be for the mutual benefit. I think a lot of guys were expecting to get onto this podcast episode and see a woman who was somehow being abused or hurt and perhaps was naive or blind to it. But I don't think you're coming off like that at all. That's my perception.
I am not.
No, you most certainly are not. You're very articulate. You're very happy. You're, either you're a very good actress or this is all very genuine.
I believe you can't act that way. It's very ephemeral. And since I've spent all my life, well, my last 10 years on like the internet, you can't fake it that long. It's impossible.
Right. Yeah. That would be too much
Too much.
sustained fakeness.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
right about that. Yeah. Especially if you're public, if you're out there and you're talking to people and you're not just playing a fictional character on camera. It would be very hard to pull that off. Yeah, I think that's fascinating. I'm still left with the idea that I think a lot of guys are on board with the idea of leading, providing and protecting, and women responding powerfully to male leadership. Because I've talked about that for 20 years.
Yeah.
But my wife does not call me master unless she's wearing her cute little I Dream of Jeannie
outfit.
costume or she's just being playful. It's funny, maybe my wife wants more of that because she does fall into that persona playfully often. But we do have a very trustworthy relationship between both of us. We're both not going anywhere. We both adore each other immensely. It's not an open relationship. We're satisfied with each other from the sexual perspective without going outside that relationship. And yet, what you're talking about in terms of a master relationship over a completely submissive woman who advertises, hey, I'm submissive. I guess the word I'm looking for is it seems unnecessary to label it to that extreme. So why would you? And I know that a why question sounds confrontational, but that's the best way I know how to ask it, Mary. I think a lot of couples are out there where the man's making the relationship in the best interest of the woman. She'd rather be doing her femininity and making the world beautiful and being an artist and raising the children and not necessarily going out there and conquering empires and becoming a multi-billionaire herself, and is happy in that position. But I don't think it's labeled the way you have.
Well, first things first, I am an artist. And so I like to shock and to make people think. And so I think
enough.
That is a fundamental of who I am. It's my personality. That's just how I am. And so, of course, I didn't choose the easy path. If I did not title my book Why Submissive Women Were Happier, or Are Happier, sorry. If I titled it 50 Shades of Grey, it would have been a bit more mainstream. I understand what I did. But in that way, though, this is like judge a book by its cover. This is exactly what I like. When people see Master and I walk in the streets, or when they hear me say Master, it does something to them. And whatever they like it or not, it still does something to them. And I think we need to shake things up, and we need people to get thinking, to get talking. Everybody says don't judge a book by its cover, but then you read Why Submissive Women Are Happier on the title of a book and you just dismiss it. So this is exactly the contradiction that the humans have. And
you wrote me wanting to be on the show. And you said you think my audience would resonate with why submissive women grow more in relationships than independent women.
Yes.
And I was like, yes, absolutely. After 500 shows, finally someone who can get on this show and bring something that's both relevant and unique. Instead of, I want to talk about resilience, or, here's how to make your dick bigger. I mean, I get 6 or 8 pitches like that a week, but none like yours. I said, I know, right? I mean, the creativity out there is not very much. But you have this angle to this that I don't think we've discovered enough yet. And that's you're growing more in this relationship than an independent woman. And that seems to fly in the face of all conventional wisdom. Like an independent woman, obviously, she's out there making her own decisions, deciding her own path. How would that not result in growth? As opposed to, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here, some man telling me what to do.
Well, some man telling you what to do is somebody having this sanctuary for you, right? It's somebody having the vision. It's somebody really leading you to where you want to go in that way. And I think that is also like purely feminine. I think women need that. Women are more aimless than men in general. They're like that. And so I was like that. And when I found master, and of course you need the same goal. You need the same vision in that way. But my growth from a personal standpoint, a business standpoint, from a feminine standpoint, I mean, has expanded so much more. Men are like half of the planet, right? Just that. So getting their feedback and getting into a partnership with a man, you're already expanding your horizons just by doing that. And then the fact that a man has all of these qualities, this proactivity, this leadership, all of these things, makes it so that they can bring you so much further because they tell you what they need. Like for women, to make them, again, be better men, to make them work harder. I do believe also that Master and I have grown together in that way, and that I've brought in things, of course, that he wouldn't have had without me in that way either. But the empowerment and the growth you get from being two in a partnership, and two doing not just the sex together, but doing everything together. That is like instead of going and having a job and having a mentor in your job, because if you're a female CEO, you had a mentor. You submitted to some guy somewhere.
That's a fact. Even if it's a couple other chicks around there, power chicks, they were still mentors.
Yeah, but this is way of life. So you're giving your submission for your career, but you're not doing it at home to your husband in that way. And so you might have grown there a little bit, but not there a little bit. And I think that finding the right man to lead in all of these sectors in a way that I think you and your wife do or have done for the past years, well, that leads to like extreme exponential growth in all avenues of life for men and women.
I think a lot of guys are going to be unexpectedly amazed by how evolved and well thought through your arguments for this are. And it's not so much an argument. This is a lifestyle that you're choosing and living, and you're not necessarily projecting it onto anybody else. You're simply living your lifestyle and talking openly about it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's fascinating how I'm sure the feminist accusation against you is, look, chickie babe, honey, wake up. Okay. You're under a man's thumb here. You are incredibly naive. You're not being very smart. It is now the year 2025. You don't have to do this. And mm-hmm. yet, if you prod them, if you dig a little deeper for more meaning and for more elaboration on why they feel like that, they got nothing. And they're not happy. And they're like, well, I'm perfectly okay here. You're trying to change me from a situation where I'm happy to one where I'm more miserable like you. And it's not gender specific, because you have these men going their own way. The red-pilled guys who mm-hmm. have sworn women off, yet they can't stop talking about women. They're going their own way, yet they're still here. If you're going to call yourself men going your own way, leave, skedaddle, go on. But no, they're still obsessed with talking about women. And I remember back when I first started, these guys have heard this story before, but I'm launching into my next point. And so for your benefit, you need to know this happened.
Okay.
When we first started, I'm punching above my weight. My wife is adorable. She's sweet. She's feminine. She's exactly who I wanted. And they thought I was hiring an actress. Some guy famously one time, because I read it out loud on a podcast, said, you wait till the drummer for Motley Crue comes and steals your wife from you, because she's just going to be another one of his, groupies. It's so funny because the hate and the schadenfreude that was being cast upon me by guys who needed my advice not to work. They needed me to fail to support their belief that all women were bad. My argument against them was always the same, Marion. It's like, okay, let's say you successfully converted me. I'm a happy guy in a relationship. We're making cute kids who do cool things. We're living the dream together. We're going on adventures. Mm-hmm. She's my favorite woman I've ever met. She treats me right. I treat her right. We're thrilled. Mm-hmm. Let's say you successfully convince me to be more like you. So what? So I could be miserable now? Mm-hmm. Like if you're right and I'm wrong, and I admit you're right, so I can be miserable like you? I mean, why in the world would I want to be converted to your way of thinking? You guys are just pissed off and angry and alone and lonely.
Yeah.
And nobody has an answer for that. So it seems like I'm sure a lot of people really have an axe to grind over the fact that you're happy. They don't want to accept that. There's got to be a lie somewhere, but you're not. They're not right. You are.
Well,
You're happy.
Yes,
it's all projection. Yes.
And I have years of content to prove it. And the other thing I would say to most feminism who say that I've been brainwashed or that I don't have my own volition or none of that is that I own all the bank accounts and businesses. So that is how my master trained me to be able to do all these things and to be able to manage all these things. So now that I am even more independent than I ever was in my whole entire life, I just want to be more with him and for us to have more time and to go on this next adventure together that for me now is a book talking about our life and a podcast and all of these other things that we'll do together. But I've never been more free, and I still choose to consciously submit to a man because I'm more free than I ever was. So that's the proof.
And I'm about to be a guest on your podcast too.
Yes, you will.
That should be an interesting conversation.
Yes.
I bet we'll talk at length about the I Dream of Jeannie costume.
Oh, great.
That's what I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this has been a wonderful conversation and a necessary one, because anytime you see someone who's happy living what is an unconventional life nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
and you really let that sink in, it reminds us that maybe we've all been led along a path that isn't right for everybody simply because that's the prevailing message being sent to us by the media.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fascinating that the guy in your life, even though you call him a master, has empowered you to have your own bank accounts. And whether that was his decision to let you do that or whatever, it still comes from a position of him wanting your best interests.
Mm-hmm.
And wanting you to shine as a human and be more, not less. So no, it doesn't sound like slavery to me. It sounds like, if anything, mutual empowerment. I'm sure he's very gratified by being with you, and you recharge his batteries as a warrior and do all those wonderful feminine things that are such a gift to masculinity. I just think maybe you're using stronger words than, say, Emily and I do, but I bet it's not all that different.
It's not all that different, maybe. I don't know. I feel like these are the right words for me.
Well, like you said, you are an artist. You love the shock value. And, I think perhaps you are more unabashedly bold about saying, hey, world, pay attention. This works. Whereas I think Emily and I are more visceral in terms of the masculine feminine dance being a natural thing that's primal, and this is what we should be doing. So Emily and I would call it natural, virtuous masculinity and femininity dancing together, whereas you guys would call it a master and submissive relationship. But, even I'm not sure if this is your racket, but even if you talk to people who are coming from a faith-based perspective, Christian people, they love to flaunt that verse that says, wives, submit to your husbands. And they usually let that stand alone as if, hey, women, fall in line, do what your husband says to do. But see, there's another verse that comes behind it that's pretty important. And that's, hey, husbands, love your wives like Jesus, our Lord, loved the church. Well, Jesus died for the church. So, I mean, the submission comes from a point where the man has great respect for his role in life. He comes at it very seriously. I mean, not that we take ourselves so seriously. We joke and we have fun. But, this idea of there's a woman in my life, there's a family, and my leadership matters. It will affect their quality of life. Therefore, as a man who's a good man, who is thoughtful about this, I need to make the decisions that are in the best interest of my family, not let them all starve while I go, spend money on hookers and blow in golf clubs, right? And I think, ultimately that's where we're both coming from. I doubt that you're taking a biblical perspective,
Oh, no, I'm an atheist.
Right.
I
Yeah.
have only one master, and he's physical, and he talks to me for real.
Yeah. Well, I mean, fair enough. But I'm just saying, no matter who you are, it seems like this archetype comes home to roost. It is
Mm.
very human. And,
Mm.
you can say, well, this is what God told me to do. This is just what I feel as a person. You can be an atheist. You can be, a Bible thumper or anybody in between. But ultimately, there is this thing that keeps coming back that says women should have someone to submit to, but whoever they're submitting to, that man needs to be worthy of that.
Worthiness is really important. You can't just submit to anybody. And that's why I prone conscious submission and not just submission. And I understand that like the BDSM world and sex play and all these things have this kind of scenes and you do it on Saturday. And that there is this submission that, you just submit, like you said in the Bible. but in the end, you need to consciously submit. It doesn't mean that you're passive in your submission. It's completely different. Being passive is not a thing you want to do. And I don't think men want passive women. I think they want submissive women. It's completely different.
Right. Even, at any level that we're talking about right now, atheistic, purely secular, humanistic, or even faith-based, our beliefs, our drive as a human is to have self-agency.
Mm-hmm.
If you are coming from faith, the idea that whatever the God of the universe is, or whatever the God of the universe looks like, granted us agency is miraculous. And so, yes, I think we don't want. This is why AI girlfriends are going to fail, Marion. This is my soapbox.
That's the reason.
Because we don't want to. Anybody who's ever seen Coming to America, right? Where they find a wife in Zamunda for Eddie Murphy, and she's like, "I want to do what you want to do." Yes, whatever. And he's like, "This is so unfulfilling. I want a woman who wants me, who loves me."
Mm-hmm.
Like a guy who's a multimillionaire would go, "I want a woman who loves me, not my money."
Mm-hmm.
We don't want a robot. We don't want someone who is programmed to care about us and love us. We want someone with agency who has made a decision, in the case of a woman, to respect my leadership. And the other way around.
Yeah.
A woman, wants a man who is going to respect her and love her and make her feel safe and comfortable, give her a sanctuary. You talked about a sanctuary, not a cage. Sanctuary is safety. Cage is violent.
Mm-hmm.
And without the safety, this goes nowhere. And I mean, this is primal no matter who you are, no matter how you label it, which is why I think this has been a fantastic conversation. Because I love the perspective you bring. Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me on the podcast, Scott. And thank you to all the men listening for listening and being here and being open to other perspectives.
Well, I don't think there's a whole lot of guys out there who, if they're honest with themselves, think this is disgusting and awful and I don't want this at all in my life. But I think they also need to understand it's not a free ride. With it comes the responsibility.
Yes.
You were not made to be a submissive woman coming from a place of disempowerment and victimhood. In other words, you didn't become an indentured servant. You're not paying off a debt to someone who rescued you.
No.
This doesn't come from victimhood. It comes from two empowered people deciding that this is the relationship that works for us mutually.
Mm-hmm.
Very important. Very important. Marion, I want to send these guys to happysubmissives.com, and they can go there by going to mountaintoppodcast.com or check it out, bettermengetbetterwomen.com. They'll both go to the same website, /Marion, MARIAN. And when they go to Happy Submissives, they'll be able to get a copy of your book. What else will they find there, Marion?
Oh, we also have a community there for men who want to chat and women who want to explore their other submission and their lead. So everybody's welcome there, couples, men and women. Yeah.
You do any matchmaking?
Not yet. Yeah, that's planned for the future. Probably like a dating on the side site on happysubmissive.com. Right. Yeah.
And is your master always behind the scenes, or does he ever show his face on camera?
Never shows his face. Always behind the scenes. He prefers it that way.
Something? Okay, that's good. That's a good partnership. Well, Marion, you're a delight, and you're welcome to come back on the show. And I can't wait to be on your show. We're going to have some of the other things to talk about.
Scott.
Yes, I know. I'll be on the hot seat. Well, thank you so much for being on, Marion. And like I said, this is a wonderful show and a unique one. And it's a lot of fun to talk to you about this because you're passionate about it, you believe it, and it works for you. And that's always very compelling.
Well, thank you for having me. And if you have more questions or anybody else has questions, just find my email and send questions. Let's just talk about this.
And so that would be Marion at happysubmissives.com.
Yeah.
Easy enough. All right.
Easy.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Scott.
All right, guys. And if you haven't been to mountaintoppodcast.com lately, listen, our 3 sponsors, Jocko Willink's company, Origin in Maine. I bet you Jocko makes a great master to his wife, whether he wants to admit it or not. I bet his wife and kids follow him anywhere. But anyway, enough about him. The boots, the jeans, if you guys are into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, everything at Jocko Willink's Origin in Maine is going to make you manlier. It looks great. Man, I got boxes and boxes of cool stuff from Origin, and I just love it. Thrilled with them. 3 years plus going as sponsors of this show. Also, the guys at Hero Soap will make you feel good without all those chemicals that poison us as men whenever we take a shower. Your daily carry should include the key port. I know some of you guys are packing heat. Some of you guys are two-way guys. You should also have the proper tool, a 21st century tool that helps you be Johnny on the spot, something way beyond simply carrying a blade. The key port, man, that's what they do in their sleep. Visit them. Whether you visit Hero Soap, the key port, or Jocko Willink's company, Origin in Maine, please use the coupon code MOUNTAIN10 to get an additional 10% off. And guys, some of you don't have the AI Vamonos app yet. And listen, I use it myself when I'm writing newsletters and writing Substacks to say, is there anything I forgot to add? As you guys know, I've told you, it's AI that you can ask any question. All of the content is walled off from the rest of the internet. It's only X and Y communications content. It's been trained to talk like me, respond like me, use the words I use. None of this Mr. Nice Guy, fluffy marshmallow stuff you get when you attempt to try to ask dating questions to ChatGPT. Okay? If you guys aren't on Vamonos yet, vamonos.chat or mountaintoppodcast.com/Vamonos and get you some. It doesn't break the bank. Matter of fact, I'll even give you your first month free so you can put it to the test. All of that and more is there for you at mountaintoppodcast.com. And until I talk to you again next time, this is Scott McKay from X and Y Communications in San Antonio, Texas. Be good out there.
The Mountaintop Podcast is produced by X and Y Communications. All rights reserved worldwide. Be sure to visit www.mountaintoppodcast.com for show notes. And while you're there, sign up for the free X and Y Communications newsletter for men. This is Ed Roy Odom speaking for the Mountaintop Podcast.